when I first met you at the Victorian,
Yes.
you told me that you had, I don't want to boof the amount of time, but you said you had like maybe it was like 50 listeners for like 2 years or something.
Oh, I wish it was 50, dude. Like it was 12. It was 12.
For like how long?
For so long. Let me think about it. So the first, because very brief history of me is like guitar playing kid meets the local indie scene in his town.
Yeah.
And then like learns how to produce, but then leaves them at like 17 to like make his own stuff, right?
Yeah.
So like I guess that's the answer then. 17 to halfway through 19. So for 2.5 years, I had, and 12 was the peak, bro. Like 12 was like,
oh my God.
I put out like everyone's seen like the Russ conversation in music where it's like put out a song every Friday.
Yeah.
Do it for a year. I lasted like 10 or 12 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And like in the midst of it. And this is like, those 12 people were my friends. I had no fans. There was nothing. But I would text 12 people on drop day or whatever and be like, please just stream it so I get a monthly listeners. And I remember that. I had 12 monthly listeners as the peak. It was usually between 3 to 5, which I'm assuming were like some of my closest friends that would like bump it or whatever, like a family member. And that was that way for 2.5 years. I put out like, I think it's like 16 or 18 songs total.
Yeah.
It's because it was like the 12 straight and then like trickled in like a couple more, but nothing ever worked. But like, it was my hobby. It was the thing I loved. Like I was making music.
Did you leave all those songs up?
They were for a while. So that's the fun part of the ending of that story is the label eventually we mutually agreed to take them down once I signed my deal. Cause I made them when I was 17. I signed at like 20. Like it wasn't who I really wanted to be anymore.
Yeah.
But right before they got taken down, those songs, like I had like 300,000 monthly listeners. Like that's for like those songs existing on the platform after blowing up on TikTok and people finding me with my voice. So like I think if there's ever anything to say is that I put those songs out for 2.5 years when I had nothing, like 10 monthly listeners. And then in that moment it felt like I was failing and nothing was happening properly. And then one moment and one little video changes your life and there's hundreds of thousands of people now listening to them after the fact. And yeah, man.
That was because I was gonna say like I'm fresh off. I drove San Diego to LA 2 hours, fresh off listening to your entire discography a couple of times.
Oh yeah, man. I appreciate it.
And I was gonna say I really don't think there was any bad songs, so I was curious if I'd listen to those.
All the other songs they did get taken down, and I'll admit that there's moments that like aren't my best work.
Yeah.
But it definitely does say that, like, yes, the songs that had 10 monthly listeners that everyone, like, would make fun of me for making music a little bit for, like, 2 years later, like, it literally was, like, supporting me. Like, that 300,000 monthly listeners, like, that made a difference to me in all aspects of life.
Yeah.
And it eventually was a springboard that allowed me to, like, get a deal and, like, have life change that way. So.
Dude, like, that is no joke. But I guess that's the lesson, though, is that so many people will go on your page, and I bet people did go on your page from your high school, and they don't even listen. They see 12 monthly listeners, and they close it out.
Totally.
And that's like, but you know the art was at least 300,000 monthly listeners good because it got there one day. And that's something that gives me hope, and that's why the message of the podcast, I mean, you've heard me talk about it, is soul wealth. Is that most people measure success by money, possessions, achievements, etc. And I always tell people to measure success by soul wealth metrics, which is the quality of your relationships and the quality of your memories. Because if you go to that piece of art, maybe it's my podcast, maybe it's your song, and you go measure it by your achievements, or you measure it by quote unquote numbers, then you can look at that, be the best song ever. And
I think that exists today still. Like,
it's like
there's a version of me now, like a new kid.
Yeah.
Also 18, putting out a song that his entire senior class is going to shit on him for.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to change his life in that moment. And sadly, I think the saddest part is there's going to be kids that take those songs down.
Yeah.
And they never kind of get to that point where like their moment happens. But it's really the truth. That's why like everyone ever asked me like advice, like how do you want to get into music, like whatever. Yeah. My number one answer is like you absolutely have to love it.
Yeah.
Because first of all, it's going to take a while, but two, every song matters.
Yeah.
Even if in the moment it doesn't blow up and change your life, you made art, like you expressed your emotions and you put it out, and you need to love that part because you just don't know if or when it's.
Even if it's horrible, like even if you could look back yourself and be like, I don't really like that song, it was still, in that moment, it reflected who you were. Totally. And you don't get to the freaking radio hit unless you make that song. It's a part of your journey. You have to grow. And that's like another thing I see a lot in LA is like people will introduce themselves to me and they'll have 10 million followers on TikTok. But you know what the first thing they'll say to me when they talk to me? They'll go, first of all, I'm not ever the person who asks for people's Instagram right away. But in LA, there's like this thing where people just ask for your Instagram within like 20 seconds of talking.
And you decide how they want to treat you.
Yeah. And but anyways, on this point, I'll meet people of 3 million followers on TikTok. They'll introduce me. They'll ask me for my Instagram, so I'll ask them for their Instagram. And then right before I look, they go, "Oh, just by the way, like I make cringy dances." Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I obviously don't say this to their face, but in my head, I'm like, dude, this is your living. This is your livelihood. Like, if this is what you want to do, like, why are you introducing it to me like you've already made it? Why are you introducing it to me like it's like you're scared of your little like thing? Like, that's who you are. Own that shit.
100%.
Like, I own my YouTube channel with 300 subscribers more than some of these guys
100%
on there. And that's like I've always had this belief, or I've come to learn this belief, that the way you see things is how others will see it too. Mm-hmm. So if you were like, "Oh, I'm releasing a song, like maybe it's cringe, I don't know if you like it," well then guess what? People aren't gonna like it. They aren't gonna give it the time of day. But if you go, "Dude, I'm a musician, like this is my art, I love this shit," then people will start to see it the way you see it.
100%. Like, and that's, again, you have to love the art you're creating. Because the metrics, they come and go. But, like, if you believe in what you're doing, like, I think that's how you find happiness as a creative. Like, I'm not going to pretend like the rest of the world doesn't matter. But, like I would say to that kind of person that introduces their very successful brand and business to you, almost like they're not proud of it at all.
Yeah.
I would say to that person, like, are you happy? And I'm assuming the answer, maybe it is, maybe they love it and like they accept that it's not what they love to do. But like, I would much rather be in the position of like me when I first started with those songs, or like even like you doing what you love with these podcast episodes, because you get to walk into the room and you get to be yourself. And that's the same person across everything.
That's
like, that's what's special.
You're absolutely right. Because at the very least, like regardless if that person's happy or not, they're not truly being themselves, because they have to put an asterisk when they introduce you, and they have to let you know when you look at your social media that's. And so if they don't believe that's, like, I wouldn't want to live a life where like, and I'm not gonna go to say like everything I've ever posted reflects me perfectly.
Sure.
But I strive. And that's like, we're now in a YouTube culture where it's all about like how do I make the thumbnail that other people, how do I make art that other people will like, other people stream. And I read in the Rick Rubin book, which is amazing book.
I have yet to read it, but I've seen all like the snippets.
Oh dude, it's amazing. But he says like, if you make art under the idea that someone else will like it or stream it or watch it, then that is no longer art, that's commerce. You're making something for someone else, for what you think they'll like. It's like if I went and sold bananas, it's like I'm not passionate about bananas. It's not art to me, but I know that someone wants to eat them. Totally. And so like that's the difference of like commerce and art. And I actually don't shit on people who do creative fields for commerce reasons. Like, if you want to be a YouTuber and you want to make videos for little kids and that's not who you are, but you like business and you like that, then go do that. Go do business. But I just wouldn't call it art.
I'll even like interject with a personal story on that point where I'm very, like, the music that I have out, I'm very grateful for, and I really do believe in. But in a way, I feel like I've lived that experience of the person you're talking about. Yeah, is when I first started, I definitely followed suit of like what's working right now? How can I come up? And to the point where, like, if you look at anything I've done this year or even last year, I can bleed for that. I believe in that. Yeah. Like the way I'm singing, the songs, all that. If you scroll back to early 2021 or any of those periods, I watched some of those videos and I used to get comments all the time that I would brush off, but they'd be like, "Why is bro like screaming into the mic?" And that's someone being rude.
Yeah.
But I'll look back at some of those videos and I'll be like, why am I over singing and like over delivering the way I'm performing? And like, that's not genuine. And I think that like, I never had it the way that the people you're describing had it, where I wouldn't be proud to introduce myself.
Yeah.
But you feel it a little bit. And I will speak from my own personal experience that if you want to feel more comfortable in any room you're in, like sometimes you have to let go of the thing that you know is going to get all the views or whatever in exchange for being more authentic. And I found that people have connected to my actual music more by me being more honest and real versus like just trying to get the most viral TikTok by like over singing and screaming on the mic.
That's good. That's amazing. There, like, what's really interesting is how you were talking about how there's another kid just like you out there who's doing what you did, and that he might quit or he might take his songs down. And that is like a sad thing, but at the same time, I feel like that is part of, everyone talks about like the discipline. Like, you gotta have the discipline, you gotta have the work ethic, you gotta have, but I think like one of the big barriers to entry is like, you have to be someone willing to be hated, willing to be disliked, willing to be, I mean, I've been chastised a shitload in my life, and I'm sure you've been chastised a shitload in your life. And it's funny because like, you get to a point where it just flips.
Yeah.
But that's like the hardest part, is doing what you love when no one loves you for it.
Yes. And that's going to be the reality of anybody that wants to get into entertainment. So I guess, I don't even know, like on my previous point, the reality is those videos are like the reason I'm sitting here with you right now. They're what brought so much attention to give me the opportunity to be able to transition something that felt more authentically me. But yeah, I used to say to my parents, like when I started seeing hate comments on a video that was starting to do well, I'd be like, this is a big one. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm getting hate. I'm getting hate, which means that more people are seeing it. Like, it's hitting both sides of the algorithm. Like,
that's true. But the almost one of the best indicators, if like, I mean, even if you look at, I mean, just look at like, I hate politics and I don't identify with any party, but why are politics so viral? It's because it's polarizing. Mm-hmm. People love that they can be a part of a team, that they have allies and they have enemies. And it's the same thing. It's very prominent in politics. It's very prominent in sports, but people don't realize it's the same thing in entertainment. People want to be the guy who likes Jake Paul, and people want to be the guy who hates Jake Paul. That's why Jake Paul's freaking Jake Paul. And I see people too often, they're like, and I think this is because of cancel culture, but people are too scared to offend one side, or too scared to like fully lean into themselves because they know like, oh, like, well, maybe this person won't like my opinion, or this person won't like, but that same polarizing thing that's going to make half the audience hate you is what's going to help you grow.
Totally.
Which is just an interesting juxtaposition.
That's the final piece of it. I'd stand by what I said about like, if you're seeking peace and you're seeking like, like, you know, make just whatever, but like, I would say, like, as a social media person, if you want to grow, you can't have, like, no one has ever truly blown up just from love. Like,
and like pleasing you can't please everyone.
Absolutely not. Never gonna happen.
Which is just but it's just interesting, like when I think about situations like and I guess I'm just guessing because I wasn't at your high school, but it's like usually the hate is so like dumb. It's so invalid. It's like I don't like that he makes TikToks. It's like, all right, what bad is he doing to the world?
That's my biggest thing too. Is like the last, I guess, point I'll make on that part of it is there's a couple rules. Don't hurt anybody else with whatever you're doing, and like, don't harm the world in general by what you're doing. So I think that, I guess it is the golden rule. But like, outside of someone intentionally causing someone else harm, you're right. Like, hate's done. Like, who cares, bro?
That's the other thing. Like, I always hear successful people say this. I listen to a lot of success podcasts, success stories. Is the people doing the hate are never more successful.
Yes.
It's always people who are less successful, which is just like, I mean, that says what you need to know. Like, do you want to be in? Literally, if you just ask yourself as a viewer, do you want to be someone who's successful, or do you want to be someone who's not successful? Everyone's gonna say successful. Well, then, if you're being a hater, you're aligning your habits with unsuccessful people.
100%. Like, the trend is not in your favor, and more than anything, even if you somehow figure it out, I'll tell you something. Somebody that has a history of being shitty to other people doesn't go far. I talk about it with Willow or my girlfriend all the time. The A-listers, the like, not just like a little bit of success, but like made it success. Those people are the people want to win. Like, people have to want you to win at some point, because like we talk about, like, as far as like being good and like creating a network and growing. If you're the person that treats people like shit and punches down and people find out, or like, that's never gonna be a situation where you're gonna be able to, not call in that favor, but like, I think good people rise through because they don't get in their own way.
That's the thing. Depending on how good you treat people, you can get to a point where everyone just wants to help you, where people are waiting for Cam selling their drop so they can post their story. They're waiting for, and it's like, you really, I don't know. I mean, that's like something I harp on all the time. But dude, the more you help people, the more you love people, like the more, like, what you give is what you get.